sound is working. Yes. All right. Good evening, everyone. Gary, would you like to? Gary was elected or was chosen for chair at our last meeting. So you like to start us off?
Yes. Good evening. Welcome to everybody.
Is your mic unmuted?
It's on.
Okay.
I've got it in red. Here.
Right, try that again.
Testing.
I mean,
Testing.
As a teacher, I can scream loud. That's all right.
Uh-oh, big time.
no. All right.
Do you want me to try a different mic or something?
No,
Or-
I think it's working.
Okay.
It just
There's no volume switch on here.
there's no sound. Okay.
That's Alice.
I did. Okay. Let's see. Is anyone able to hear me right now? If you can hear me, can you raise your hand? Anyone on? Okay, you can hear me? Good. Okay. So, okay, put your hands down. Okay, so we are recording, and I believe it sounds like the sound is working. Okay, great. Okay, perfect. All right, Gary, that was a false start. Now you're up.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the NAB 5 to order and take a roll call, please, Amy.
Great. Frederick Bear, absent at this time. Actually, double check this. Yeah. Carly Borchard. Present. Gary Cecil.
Present.
Bryce Chisholm.
Present.
Harold Crane. Here. George Foster. I'm absent at this time. Alex Goff. Absent at this time. Theodore Meek. Absent at this time. Mac Rossi.
Delighted to be here.
Great. We have a quorum, and the Ward 5 Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting for June 14th is called to order.
Very good. Thank you. First item is public comment. 3 minutes to anybody in the audience or on Zoom. First of all, Amy, did we have any written comments?
I will double check, but I don't believe we've received any written comments for this meeting. And if anyone online would like to make a public comment, you can raise your hand at this time and you'll be recognized.
Yep.
I'm not seeing any requests to make public comment right now.
Okay, then we'll close that public comment session. Go on to item A3, approval of the agenda. I notice we have Lieutenant Peterson, I believe, here tonight, and we customarily move him up in order.
Do the agenda.
Okay. So, well, we're at the approval of the agenda, so I was going to suggest we move him forward.
Mac Rossi for the record. I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Carly Borchard, I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. With that, can I ask now if we can move Lieutenant Peterson?
He's already up.
Well,
in front.
I think he's already
He's
first.
the first presentation.
Okay.
We're good.
After the council report.
Okay, very well. I didn't know if it moved even further up, but there you go. Okay.
Yeah, doing good.
All right, item A4, the council liaison report. Thank you for being here tonight, Vice Mayor. It's great to see you in person.
Oh, there we go. There we go. At least it just turned red. Can you hear me now? Okay. Good evening, everybody, and happy Flag Day. Happy primary election day. Kudos to everybody going out there and doing their civic duty and voting, and kudos to everybody that threw their hat in the ring. It's not an easy thing to do, but I appreciate everybody's efforts being in the process of trying to improve our community. So way to go. Excited for this day. I took a couple of notes here.
There it is.
Sorry.
Now it's working.
Wow. Something. I'm just going to give a couple of updates. I know some of the updates will probably come from the presenters that are here tonight. I just wanted to say for those that weren't aware, the Conference of Mayors that just concluded was not only a great thing for the city and exposure to the city, it was really informative, and there was a lot of different sessions within the Conference of Mayors that were very helpful. You know, I think sometimes when we live and work in one location, your issues can feel very specific. I can assure you that the issues in which rise to the top of our issues here in the city of Reno are across this nation, whether they're housing or homelessness, a variety of different things. They are universal. And it was great to hear some of the presentations and the efforts that other communities are deploying to help address some of these things. And one of the things that I was very glad to hear was there was an entire session on homelessness and the Built for Zero model, how it had been deployed in a number of different cities, and it's showing great success. And for those that may not know, the Built for Zero was adopted here in Washoe County about 2.5 years ago. So the county's been working on the plan for the Built for Zero along with the Community Homeless Advisory Board. And it has a number of different factors involved with it that are not only emergency sheltering, but they're transitional and supportive, affordable housing as well. And we're well on our way. Data drives all things, and we are on our way. And for those that didn't know, the point in time count came back. And I am very happy to report that the unsheltered homeless population, the ones that we hear the most about that are along the river and our parks outside, has reduced by 46%. 46%. That is largely attributable to what I would say two things of the community coming together to remove silos and start working together on a number of these issues and initiatives, rather than having one-off efforts and kind of not really getting to the core of the issues and working together. Those things have really come together in the last year in particular. And then the Nevada Cares Campus. The Nevada Cares Campus has allowed us to double the number of people that are provided shelter on any given night. We went from 300 in a variety of shelters to 600 at the Nevada Cares Campus. And while some will say, well, it's full. Yeah, it is. And that was the point, was to get people in there, to get them going, getting back on their feet and getting them out from being unsheltered, you know, in the variety of places in the community. So we're very excited for that. The county is doing a magnificent job of starting to really build out the Nevada Cares Campus. They just broke ground on some of the next phases. It really is going to be pretty amazing. And while this Community Homeless Advisory Board is only meeting once a quarter now, the county is putting out a monthly newsletter, which gives lots of great information. And so Amy, I have sent this to Amy and she's going to give it to all of you. Very informative stuff. And I hope you guys will take that information and share it. And because that's where you're going to get your most up-to-date information. So there's a lot happening and it's pretty exciting. Let's see here. The multimodal downtown project officially, I guess, launches, Amy. I don't know if that's the correct word. There's a launches tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll begin the process of a public campaign of information, education, and a variety of different things will officially launch tomorrow with the city of Reno as it relates to the micro-mobility project that's going downtown. And I'm sure Lieutenant Peterson will be able to comment if people have any specific questions on it. Again, it's just starting. So the community members, the businesses, the residents, as we move along through this pilot program, will be asked what their feelings are on it. Did they use it? Did they find it good, bad, helpful, not? Did you know, those sorts of things. All of that information we will be gathering over the next few months, and we'll bring it back to the council to kind of determine what its future is. So once it officially launches, you know, encourage everybody to get on their scooter or on their bike and follow the rules of the road and check out the micro mobility. So with that, I think that's all I have, unless you all have some questions.
Mac Rossi for the record. Just to let you know that Carol and I both had the opportunity to work on that conference of mayors. And once you got them to start talking, Washoe County and the city is not in bad shape compared to some of the others once they open up. So we should be proud, really. They're doing a good job. Thank
Yeah,
you.
there was a lot of really good kudos. You know, we're in the bubble. You're in the bubble with us on the issues, you know. And it's not until you look at others that you kind of go, okay, wait a minute, we've got lots of work to do on a variety of different things, but we've done some pretty awesome things too. And we're making some good progress. So I was glad to hear some of that feedback as well. Anybody else?
Carol Crane, yes. What is this micro pilot program? What is that called?
It's micromobility.
Micro.
It's a mouthful. Here, let me tell you what it means. So if you've driven down Virginia Street from I-80 to here recently, you'll notice there's a couple of blocks where the traffic only goes southbound for automobiles. And on either side are these protected lanes where people on scooters, on bikes, on foot, and wheelchairs can access in a protected manner, both north and south, this core. And it's to, you know, it's to connect the university to downtown and beyond, and to see what people think of maybe getting out of their vehicles and trying different modes of transport to visit our downtown, make their way around downtown. And so you'll get much more information as we move forward. It's a little jumbled right now because it was all under construction, and they're painting lines and they're putting up lights and all sorts of things.
Those things, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I have seen that. I just didn't know the name of the program that was doing it.
Micromobility.
Micro mobility. Thank you.
You bet.
I just have a quick couple things. I kind of need to get myself refreshed and sign myself up for the newsletter for Washoe County. So I appreciate if we could get that information. I've been saying for years, it's great, awesome, incredible, the efforts from both city and county on the CARES campus and the efforts on the homelessness. My concern is once they go through the Reno Works and these incredible programs and services that are being offered, what's the next step? Because I can speak for just about anybody in my generation. We cannot afford a house. So how on earth is somebody coming from Xero going to ever afford a place here? It's just a huge concern and has been one of mine for many, many years.
I 100% agree with you. So, and that's what, you know, some of the exit out of the CARES campus, as you can imagine, it is difficult. It is very, very difficult. They're starting to see some progress in that regard. I don't know if you saw the city purchased the Highway 40 motel and another property, I'm hoping I'm saying the right words, to have it be that sort of from that position to the next step, to start people getting, you know, out of the emergency sheltering into that next supportive sort of housing.
Right.
So we're dedicating, you know, the city of Reno, now that we are no longer the homeless services provider, we are able to kind of look more aggressively and expand on those sorts of housing models of that next, I call it the next rung in the ladder. So starting to make some incremental improvements in that regard, but it's going to take a while. I mean, we're not alone in this. The country is struggling with housing affordability, and it's not just those coming out of homeless. I mean, my goodness, college kids, who's going to own a house? It's tough for sure. So inventory, of course, is a big deal to help increase the inventory to maybe stabilize some of that. But having that middle inventory of housing too for those coming out of a homeless situation, we're getting there. A lot of it's under construction right now, but we're increasing literally by the month.
Okay. I could sincerely sit here and chat about this all night, so I won't bore you and
You should come to
repeat
a
things that-
CHAB meeting.
That's
We're
my
only meeting
question.
once a quarter,
Okay.
but they give updates on everything, and they're very informed. And you don't even have to physically come. You
What
can.
are you
It's on the
calling it?
first Monday of every third month. So we just had one in June, so September, I think.
What are you calling it?
CHAB. It stands for Community Homeless Advisory Board.
Thank you.
And it's got 2 members from Sparks, 2 members from Washoe County, and 2 members from Reno. And it really has, over the last 4 years since it's been around, it brings all the providers together. It brings all the agencies together, all the jurisdictions together. And it's a clearinghouse for information. And we get updates on the CARES campus, on transitional housing, on all of that on the ARPA funds. What is that going to and how quickly? Rental assistance, deposit assistance. So there's some really good stuff. And then the link that Amy will send you will also probably take you down a rabbit hole of information that will help as well.
Exactly what I was after. And I was hoping for the same for the multimodal situation. I know that I've received a couple newsletters. I have not read up on it. I've driven just to see what it's like.
Yeah.
Not
We'll be releasing a lot of information about that tomorrow,
Great.
including a link to a survey where the public can give their feedback.
That's what I was gonna
Yes.
ask.
And then I'm just going to note that the first Monday in September is Labor Day. So I'll try and confirm what the date is for that meeting and include it in the news, in my email to you.
Okay,
And you
great.
can watch it online.
But this information will come from you. I don't have to go seek it out somewhere.
it
Because
will
I
come-
do go down rabbit holes.
Yeah,
often.
I'll send some links to
Okay.
help you find it more easily.
Okay. And then just lastly, following through with the feedback that you guys get, will we get some type of, here's the results from the survey, or do we have to come at 10 a.m. to a council meeting to hear those results? Or how do you think that the public is best to try to follow through with finding out if it's working, who's complaining, who's not?
Yeah, I think there'll be more information released tomorrow about
Okay.
the plan in that regard. I know that they're working with the university to collect LiDAR, am I saying that right? LiDAR, as well as the surveys, independent feedback that's gathered in different ways. It's not going to be just like survey data. There's a lot of data being collected in different ways.
Okay, great.
So
Great. I will try to follow along.
Mhm.
Thanks.
All right. Anybody else have anything?
I have just a couple of follow-ups. One thing that's been interesting to me in joining the NAB is I've had a chance to follow two items that were of interest all the way through to council. And I just had a couple of follow-up questions. If there are things that we could talk about offline, that would be
Sure.
fine. But although I don't live in Verdi, we have some wonderful people here from Verdi, and I've met a few since and about the issue about the dwelling cap.
You say Verdi so beautifully. So beautifully.
It's bird eye, but you say bird eye.
I know, he says it so beautifully. It's like when people say my last name is Jardin. I feel very French.
Let me switch off the English here. Verdi.
They're
Um,
very American.
Anyway, I noted your concern about that particular issue and the way you voted. I know we can't relitigate it, but I had a concern when it came to the NAB about precedent. Was that item in terms of exceeding that dwelling cap that had been in place for about 20 years, was that germane just to Verdi? Or are there other developments in Ward 5 or elsewhere where that might be an issue now?
So Carly can probably give you as much background on the Mortensen Garson and the overlay districts and the 3,000 cap, probably more than you could ever want. No, it wouldn't have any implications outside of that. That was a judicial ruling that kind of had it for that area. So no, there would be no implications that I could think of that would apply to any other areas of caps or anything in the rest of the city. Yeah, I can't imagine that would have anything to do with it.
But are there dwelling caps in other parts of the city?
Not that I'm aware
Okay,
of. I don't believe there are. Now, someone may do some research and find something else out. I do know that inside the McCarran Loop, the council has kind of made it almost the opposite of capping things, but rather encouraging the number of dwelling units, because we'd rather have, go up and have more density within the McCarran Loop than spreading out to other areas. So I don't think we have any other caps in other areas, but I might have to get back to you in case there's something I'm not thinking of.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
The final one is just about the Glow Plaza. There's still ongoing interest in that as we start up to this summer season now that the cup has been approved. Is it cup or do you say CUP?
CUP.
CUP. I like cup.
I like cup.
Yeah,
You're coming up with
anyway.
good pronunciation.
But the question is, in the motion that you made for that, there's going to be an annual review that's not done by the city, it's done by Jacobs Entertainment. Is that correct?
It's done in concert, I believe. I'd have to get back to you. It would be as I understood it, would be the city would be doing it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So, okay. Is there someone that you could recommend I contact on the city staff to go through that process? So we know what to expect and when the public
I
would
would
be
say
involved?
probably Angela. Angela, Amy can get you who might be the best person to
Angela
kind of get you,
first?
yeah, to
Yeah.
get you all the details on that.
Okay.
I think she might be, was it Angela or was it Nathan that was? I know we've had so many projects in front of us recently. Might have been Nathan.
Yeah, I had a,
We'll find out. We'll get it to you.
yeah, because I had a meeting with Nathan and he was not sure what the process was going to be. So
Okay.
That's why I'm asking. Okay. So
Okay.
let me know.
You
Okay.
bet.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Hi,
Thank you.
Neil.
Oh, hey Bryce.
Just one quick question. I was at the mayor's conference on Saturday and got to meet some really nice mayors and great talks, but about the micro mobility, they set up all those barriers along Virginia. I was just wondering, I didn't make it downtown for the festival this weekend, but did they clear all that out? And are they going to do that for every festival this summer? You know?
As I understood it, yes, they took the barriers out and kind of moved stuff around. As you can imagine, you're trying to restrict other traffic during a special event. And then they did put them back. I don't think, my understanding is those barriers, once they officially launch the micromobility, I don't think those barriers are going to remain there. They might get moved around for a special event, but I don't think, are those barriers going to stay? Maybe Amy can give an update on this one.
Yeah, for every special event, they do remove the barriers and then replace them after the event is completed, which is part of the reason why they are, they're portable in nature.
So they are going.
Yeah.
There they are.
Great, thank you.
I do have one quick question. I apologize. I've kind of taken too much time as it is, but just a quick question on the members of this particular board. I've been asking for the last couple meetings. I just wanted to, since we've got you here, to ask you directly, are you anticipating expanding this board at all? Or there's a couple people that just never show up and potentially will not be coming back. So I'm just wondering if you've considered more.
Well, why don't, do we have something in the NAV rules that have an absenteeism clause? Yes.
Yes, we
Okay.
can explore.
Why don't
that.
we review that? And then, maybe rather than making the board bigger, we'll just reach out to the folks and say, we need you to be here.
That would be my preference.
Because we do have some folks that have put their applications in and we'd like to consider them if others,
Aren't going to. be
can't make it
coming.
out.
Right. That would be
Yeah.
wonderful.
Very good.
Great. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You bet.
Moving on to item agenda A5. Amy, do you have any report for us?
Let's see, I think I gave, for the micromobility, I gave the main things for when that will be coming out. Yes.
I apologize. I know there was, sorry, summer brain is starting to kick in. I know one of the things that, yeah, that is good. One of the things that was of great interest to, I know a lot of folks downtown, was Fusion and the process as it related to the Fusion bar and some of those things. Alex is here and I know if Alex wanted to come up, I think there's been a little bit of developments and I know there were some questions and I thought we could provide the board with some information on it. So does he have a specific item or? Thank you. There you go. Floor is yours.
Yes, sir. I appreciate. Good evening, Alex Woodley, Director of Code Enforcement for City of Reno. So I'm gonna give you a little update regarding Fusion. And since I'm here, I'll just give you a little bit of updates on some other minor things or big things in your area. So with regards to Fusion, this past weekend, we had our CSAS team go out. That's when we go out to all the bars, police, fire, code enforcement, business compliance, and we check every aspect of the business and the nightclubs. So Fusion was on our list. It was a special attention on our list. When they went out and did the inspection, at that time at midnight, they didn't have loud music or any incidences on the exterior, but they did have their front doors open. So we did have to educate the security and inform them per the special use permit that they're not allowed to have those doors open, and they are receiving a citation for that. I've also been in contact with the watch commanders and Commander Garlock, who he wasn't here today, so we're going to try to meet tomorrow, such as Lieutenant Peterson and some of the other lieutenants. So we'll be getting with them to come up with a plan of approach to deal with this, because we want to make sure that we're going to, for lack of a better term, we're going to deal with this in a very aggressive manner. So they're receiving their citation sometime this week. After I have that meeting, I'm sending 2 letters, one to the owner of the actual property and one to the owner of the business itself, giving them a stern warning and explaining exactly what our intent is, that although we want businesses to flourish and do well, our intent is to shut them down if they continue to be a public nuisance, and that we're not going to take any chances, and we're going to be moving aggressively with that. I do have a video from one of the tenants at the Montage. It's obviously above 10 stories, and I could hear the words of the song. So that was unacceptable. Granted, at that time, they claimed the business was closed, but the activity was occurring within the parking lot. So after much discussion I had with Amy, I told her I was going to go ahead and write a letter to both the owner of the business and the owner of the property. And the reason why I want to talk to the owner of the property as well, who's also going to receive the citation I mentioned before, is to let them know that if we shut this business down, they're going to lose rent. Or they might have to go through a whole eviction process, which can take months with this individual, which during that time, they won't be getting any rent. So it's in their best interest as well to get control of that property. And we're going to require them to secure that parking lot when they're closed. And when they're open, have control of the parking lot and the activity occurring on the parking lot. So we'll be addressing that. We also have fire. We'll be revisiting them as well. So and we're going to continue to deal with them during all our CSAS inspections. And what's more important, because I actually went out there personally myself several weeks ago with the gang unit on a weekend night, and I don't make overtime pay. So that's something serious. And I did talk to the owner and I told her what our intent was. So we did have some communication and they did shut down some of their activities. So that was good. It was a proactive approach. We didn't actually have anything happening yet, but we went out there and talked to her. So she did remove, I guess, one of the individuals. What they did was they had a flyer that said, well, we're shutting down 2nd Street tonight. So that's what made us go out there proactively. And then the one individual that had that, the one entertainer, was canceled from the event. So they weren't able to perform that night. So that was a good outcome from that. But we are keeping an eye on them, and we are going to continue to use the information that we receive from the residents, the adjoining residents. We know that it's downtown. The idea is not to shut down any businesses, but at the same time, they need to coexist, the residential with the businesses, without being a public nuisance. If and when they're a public nuisance, we're going to address them. So we want to make that clear to them. So that's pretty much what I have. But since I'm here, let me give you some updates. 1565 Carlin, that's one of our 8 plexes just south of 7th Street. That was one of our, for lack of a better term, drug houses for many years. The owner had died and left the property to her 2 daughters. And unfortunately, they were involved with illicit behavior and activities. And we dealt with them for several years. We actually got to the point where we had to condemn the entire structure and kick everyone out. Obviously, we try to connect them with services, but whenever we have an imminent hazard, there is no, we're not required or mandated to find other locations. We give individuals as much time as we can, but we do eventually shut it down. So we did do that last year. And I'm happy to say that this week, the new owner, because they forced a sale, the new owner contacted me, so I'll be meeting with them. We have over $12,000 in fines and liens on the property. I will say that approximately 5,000 of that is actual abatement costs from us boarding up the property, and the other 6,000, 7,000 is about all citations. So depending on what the new owner tells me that they're going to do with the property and how soon they're going to get that property up and running, we'll try to work with them with regards to waiving some of those fines so they are able to remove the lien from the property. So we use that as an incentive for new owners. If it's the same owner, we make sure we make them pay. But if we have new owners and they're investing in the property and going to turn it into a good property for the community, then we're going to try to work with them. So that's a good piece of information. The Belvedere, I don't know if you guys have heard about the Belvedere. We shut it down a couple weeks back, a couple months ago, actually maybe 2 months ago with the garage. Our concern and our biggest fear, we all remember what happened in Miami when they had that one structure that had the leaking pool. And unfortunately, what occurred with that structure completely collapsed, half of it collapsed. So our immediate reaction was to shut down that structure. Fortunately, the condos are not above the parking garage, unlike the one in Miami. So that was a good thing. They did come in with contractors and they did do the immediate required shoring to secure it. And it turned out that the leaking was not from the pool. It was actually from the jacuzzi, which is a lot smaller, you can imagine, a pool compared to a jacuzzi. So that was great news. And they're addressing that. It's going to be a 5-year project. We still have our condemned signs up there. Although they did the shoring and they required emergency repair, we just need them to get their permit pulled with their architect and engineers. Once that permit is pulled, the imminent hazard has been abated. So we will remove those placards. And they can use the parking lot right now, but until we see that permit, or at least the filled application and going through the permit process, it's just our process, how we do business. We're not going to just remove these signs with nothing, in writing that shows proof. So we know the work was done, but we need that permit applied for. So they're supposed to come in this week and get that permit. So we'll remove those placards and they'll be able to park in there again. And then lastly, just giving you some updates of the university area, the residential parking. We do have more parking enforcement officers. We got another code enforcement officer too during the budget. The council was very nice to us this year. We got some extra staff. Just in the 1 month that we got the extra parking enforcement, citations we issued went from 30,000 to 70,000 in citations. So we have been enforcing in the university area. I know that was a big deal. We had a lot of residents there that can't find parking in front of their own property. So we have been issuing citations out there. And we'll be doing the same once the Evans Park reopens, after they have the construction of the parking garage. We're anticipating that people are not going to want to pay for the parking garage. They're going to park all around the park. We want to make sure, residents can use the park. So our intent is to put meters around the park, and then we'll enforce that, of course, between 8 and 5, after 5 p.m. Then it'll be open to everyone, but the meters will be enforced.
That's great.
Thank you. Any questions? Like that?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. Just quick follow-ups. First of all, I do, if you remember, we had some conversations a long time ago about the One Up Club. So I know you're very vested in what you're doing, and you made a remarkable difference with the One Up Club. It's definitely improved. It's not perfect, but it's much improved. And I
Thank you, sir.
appreciate the proactive approach. As you might understand, and I did ask the question for Lieutenant Peterson, maybe he can provide some examples or some background, but we've had two volleys of gunfire, one in April and one just last weekend. And with all of the gun violence things that are happening in the country right now, I was afraid. It's amazing what flies around in social media when something like that happens. So I'm glad to report back on that. But so there's still quite a few people in the montage that are nervous.
So
One question that
I can talk to that if you want, with regards, because of what happened in Sacramento, we did react to that here
Okay.
locally.
Good.
So what we did was, between myself and the two chiefs, I drafted a letter to all the bars and clubs here in the downtown area and the rest of the city. And we told them unequivocally that per the code as it exists today, we plan on using it, that our police chief and fire chief have the ability to shut down any business at any point in time that we feel that they don't have control of what's going on, or there's an altercation at that location. And if the watch commander, we have a process at the police department. It's not like they just show up and shut it down. We have a process in place. But if they go out there and there's a big brawl or something, and we already know there's going to be some kind of retaliation, something else, they will have the authority to shut it down, lock it up. Everyone's leaving. Everyone, you got to go. So we did send a letter to, I think it was over 100 and something letters that went to all the businesses in bold letters, letting them know that our intent is to shut you down if you don't have control of your business and you have rowdy individuals, or you have individuals in a fight that you don't have control of, and that we are not going to accept you just pushing people out into the street. So we're telling them that they have to have control, because we don't want a situation like what occurred in Sacramento, downtown Sacramento, like 2 months ago, was it? It was like 2 months ago. So,
Yeah,
and
I
I'll be
used to
more
live
than
there. I
happy.
know the area
I can
very
share
well.
that letter. I'll share that letter with Amy.
That would be
So
tremendously
she
helpful.
can share it
Yeah.
with you.
To specific questions, the concern with the Fusion Bar all came about that there was going to be a review of the license. Did the license get renewed, or is it still pending?
So what we did was, a lot of the things and issues and concerns that we had with them, they did come into compliance. So what we did was we worked with them, and we gave them the welcome to Jesus speech, and we told them, which is why I showed up there proactively that night, because we told them, we have our eyes on you.
Mhm.
So if we couldn't use just based on the raw data, because the raw data is, it's unfortunate because based on different businesses, when we pulled all the raw data from all the businesses, we had similar numbers, and we know that Fusion is a problem. So we didn't want to get confused with the numbers at these other businesses to say, oh, all the businesses are a problem. Look, it's not us, it's them, it's everyone else, you know, we're all a product of the environment. So we wanted to make sure that they understood that, and our process is a lot quicker than coming back to the council. Because they can come back to the council, they can appeal. Our process is straight to the hearing officer and we're going to shut you down. So that's the process that we're going to use, a suspension revocation hearing, which is not before the council. It will be before a hearing officer if and when necessary, and our citations ability.
But was their license renewed?
Yes, it was.
It
Yes,
was.
yes.
Okay.
So exactly, thank you. That's what I was going to get at. A lot of the history with regarding to the license was related to another individual. So we have a new owner, technically a new owner. Granted, they all knew each other. So the business went from like one friend to the next friend, but technically it is a brand new owner of the establishment. So, and I've met with her, we've talked to her, and she's very gung ho, but still we're keeping an eye on her and the business.
A final question. At the time that the item was continued on the council agenda, there was a request for comparative data to see how, you know, I don't know if it's a ranking or that, because
Right.
we got some raw police data that seemed pretty shocking, and also some code enforcement visits where it was pretty shocking. But we never heard back on that. Is that data a matter of the public record, and is it available?
It is, but that's the data that I was telling you about that can be misleading, because when we pulled the adjoining properties, we had, for example, we have one property, I won't mention here, but we have one property who is very proactive and is very friendly with us at our police department. So that property has a lot of calls for service, but it's because they're keeping an eye on the entire block. So everything that happens, they call it in and we come out and we respond and we deal with that situation at hand. So according to the raw data, it looked like that business was a problem business in comparison to the numbers with Fusion. So that's why we didn't want to get confused with that. So we want to keep the sole focus on Fusion without trying to bring in, because we know, they know, you know, they tell me Monday morning, we have a meeting every Tuesday morning and they bring it up. The watch commanders pass it down and we hear about it. So
Absolutely understand the difference between raw data and inferences you can draw from that. But is that raw data available to the public?
yes, you can submit a public information.
Okay,
request
and how would can I
to
email
this-
you and just get the phrasing for it? Because sometimes it's hard to get it right.
No, I
exactly
can
what I
give
want.
you're gonna call, request calls for service.
Request calls
Yes.
for service.
And you can just give the address and to go through the city clerk's office.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I really
Thank you.
appreciate the follow-up. Thanks for being patient. We appreciate it.
Matthew Peterson, I'm a lieutenant with the Reno Police Department. Is this on? Can't tell. I don't know if to turn it off or on. Is it red or green? Okay,
Great.
It's on. Hello. Right off the bat, it's the birthday of the United States Army. So I forgot that one, 274 years. Thank you. One of the things when you brought up about the unsheltered, we had a faith-based community breakfast that's sponsored by the sheriff's office, but all law enforcement agencies in the valley participate. That was last Thursday, Peppermill, and that's for all the faith leaders to come together with police and go over myriad of problems. Excuse me. But this year, one of the themes was dealing with unsheltered and also mental illness in that realm, that type of thing. That's what the presentations were. And then it was breakout sessions, a mix type of talking about it. So it's not some of the things that are going on behind the scenes, or, you don't even know what's going on, but we're all actively involved in it. I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
Thank you.
So I had that one. Next thing I wanted to go over was at the last meeting I attended, April 11th, you had the question about the downtown bar car. It says the downtown bar car stopped on December 31st as the winter months are not too much of a problem. Are there any plans to start it back up now? The better weather is here. So I contacted grant administrator that we have and asked about that, reference those questions. She called it the party car from JTNN is currently occurring with a few more months in that grant. This is as of April 25th. The new one, which is aimed at underage drinking, is just beginning. I would be well within my purview to let the NAB know that we currently have OT grants that are working on bars and parties. So they reference it as party car. When there is not an active party found on a Friday and Saturday night, which these days it's getting hard not to find one, the officers are being proactive and moving over to bar car with the or bar activities, still the party car. I want that to be clear, but they're basically saying, okay, we're here, we're getting paid to do this, so let's go see if we can tie it in with the underage drinking, maybe at the bars, bar checks, that type of thing. So in response to that question last time, I did get back to you. Excuse me. As for the questions that I received for this meeting, many residents on the west side of the Montage reported hearing volleys of gunshots in the early hours of the morning between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. on 2 occasions since your last quarterly report, Saturday, April 15th and Saturday, June 11th that you mentioned earlier. Pleased with the update of any information I have about these incidents. So right off the bat, I didn't work during those time periods, so all I have is research available. We maintain a log for significant events that happen throughout the day and that the police department responds to. Now, significant events in my world might be different than in someone else's world. As an example, a homicide that occurs is definitely going to make the log. A shooting that occurs and injures a person, battery with a deadly weapon, is definitely going to make the log. We respond to numerous gunshot heard calls throughout the year. I don't have the specific figure, but officers respond. They check the area, but unless there is someone flagging us down and saying, it's that blue car, or you got to check this house, or anything of that nature, sometimes we don't find anything other than a couple of shell casings in the street. Sometimes we don't even find that. For this particular event, searched it 3 different ways. There's no log entries for that date, so nothing on the log. If it was just a shots fired call, it normally would not make the log. It would have to be something where, again, like I talked about, with someone being injured in it. There was no response to an email. I received these questions yesterday, so there's no response to an email I sent out requesting in that 24-hour period saying, did anybody have any information on that? And then I had earlier today, I had 2 police service technicians independent of each other conduct separate research for this request. No related calls for service in the Reno Central area using keywords such as shots, heard, gun, and fired, expanding the parameters from April 14th to April 16th and June 10th to June 12th. They found nothing. So after having said all that, I extensively researched it, trying to get you an answer, and I don't have an answer. Now, do you know if that was reported to the police? Because they're telling me it wasn't.
Honestly, don't remember April 15th, but I can tell you that there were several people that actually did call and saw at least 2 RPD cars down in the area between 2nd Street, where it crosses West, and Arlington, in that general area, somewhat around the parking lot that's just opposite there.
Okay, and but they actually called to emergency dispatch.
Yes.
Okay. I should have found that one.
And the
already.
cars were there.
Sure.
They were there, yeah.
But based on it not be, because it would definitely made the log, based on it not being in the log, then they didn't find anything. So I don't know. I'll have to research that part.
Okay.
That'll be the follow-up for like I did for last time. But that's what I had for you for this time. Second question I received was from a public safety and traffic standpoint. Please share any information I have about the first 2 large outdoor events of the summer. First one being June 3rd through the 6th, street vibrations. From that one, we had 1 misdemeanor arrest and 3 traffic citations, which they could attribute to the event. There's always some bleed over with events, but that's extremely minor in comparison to some of the ones I've worked for in my career. The second one being June 10th through the 12th, the Blues and Brews at the Row. There were no stats at all. It was a smooth running event. That was from the sergeant that's in charge of all that scheduling and works a good portion of those. Special events sergeant. And then from the traffic section, the traffic lieutenant said no known issues for him. So 2 very successful events in comparison to some of the stuff that's occurred in the past. One of the things I would bring up in consideration of those, though, is with the 250 or so special events that the city has and offers to everybody throughout the year. Combine that with what we have for staffing, and eventually it gets to the point where I have officers pretty much working, at least in the summer months, a good portion of each week, special event and the regular assignment, and then on to the next special event type of thing. I mean, that's why we ultimately have to have forced hire for certain events, because it's a lot of special events. I like certain special events. I don't like other special events, but they're not all for me, right? So just some consideration there for what we deal with as far as the PD goes in that concept. And then the Grand Slam one I have for this time is I was asked for an update on the rape kits backlog. So because we talked about that last time as well, I went straight to the source. We have an excellent detective assigned to sex crimes unit who has conducted cold case review and submittal for 6 years in that position. She's an expert. Okay. So I talked with her today, and some of the things she brought up, and I'll go over it, and then I'm sure you'll have questions and I can elaborate a little bit on it. First off, not all cases were originally submitted in the infancy of DNA. They determined what DNA was, and they went, boy, this sounds important. We should keep it. What do we do with it? Well, they didn't know. So a lot of stuff was collected and put on a shelf. And back in the early days with DNA, they possessed it, but then they investigated it, paid, a witness or different type of things. At this point, there is no backlog. She says every kit has been processed. That was through a federal grant funded and administered by the Nevada AG office, and which ended in October of 2021. The reason that it extended was due to COVID, which actually benefited because with the extension that they received, they were able to include everything that kept popping up, because it has to be 1 year past in order for it to be considered for the backlog. So they basically slid under the thing. Great, we was able to get it federally funded to be done. The grant funded 5 analysts, of course, up at the Washoe County Crime Lab. Unfortunately, it takes 18 months to train an analyst, and since that time, 2 of those have resigned. So 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. In comparison, the city of Reno for the period of 1983 through 2015, so basically the beginning of DNA and police work through 2015 when this came through, was 1,107 kits here in Reno, which is comparison to 6,000 in Las Vegas. Give you some frame of reference, 1983 to 2015. Under the grant parameters, to determine the case had to be over 1 year old, which I already told you about that one. Now, some of the things that she had to educate me on, it's a 2-step process when they're determining what to do with DNA. First, they have to put it through an exam to identify if there is DNA other than the victim in the sample, because there was a time period no one knew what DNA was, and they collected everything type of thing. So they want to make sure it's victim and an unknown DNA. If that is present and that occurs, then they can enter it into CODIS, which is the second exam. If the offender is identified by CODIS, that notice is returned to RPD, and it says this subject matches your DNA submittal. Then, of course, because victims, especially sexual assault victims, have rights as to whether or not they want to proceed. So they can choose whether they want it to proceed or not. Understandably, many do not. And at this time, she gave me a number of 12% is what she was seeing for victims who wanted to request to proceed. So out of all those, 12%. So because the big answer there is, you asked about the backlog. The backlog has been satisfied, and now it's moving forward. It's people determining whether or not they wish to continue, the victim whether they won't wish to continue. Now, that information, that sample is still kept. They don't get rid of it. She gave me a time frame, but it's extensive. And by doing that, if they now have new thoughts on it and they wish to proceed, they contact the detective and move on from there. She gave me one case example, which I thought was pretty awesome. In 1998, there was 2 victims here in Reno and 1 suspect, 2 different events. One victim wanted to proceed when the CODIS entry came back and a suspect was identified. The second victim did not. However, the second victim was willing to cooperate to an extent that it would assist the other victim. So she was helping out. Thankfully, this person was already serving a life sentence for other crimes. So it was easy to get the additional life sentence through the court process. So he's been added to that. So that's what I know about it from the expert. And I probably just glossed over, I mean, that's as good as I could get, but I probably glossed over half of what she told me. She's truly unique. And then I would add with Director Woodley for code compliance. It's very unique in law enforcement. There's certain things that happen and I know immediately that guy's going to jail and I'm going to solve the problem right now. But there's so many that are gray and I have to determine what I need to do to try and hopefully solve this problem. They have such a unique ability for the code issues and code compliance. They solve problems for me and boy, do they solve them quick too. They jump through if I ask them for assistance. I recently had, I forget the address, but I recently had something to the north off of Scottsdale, northeast off of Scottsdale. And I actually had to pull one of his employees back because she was chomping at the bit to go get him. So she's a great employee and she's worked there for many years as well, but whole staff. So can't say enough good things about them. And I'm a cop. I don't like saying good things about anybody. So there you go. Questions, please.
Questions from the board members?
Have any? Thank you so much for such a thorough
Thank you so much.
review.
I'm trying,
Wonderful
I'm trying.
report. Thank you for all the
So I got to
follow.
follow up with
appreciated.
your shooting one. I'm going to make an effort on that and hopefully I can remember it, but I wrote it down and stuff.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much. I
you.
really appreciate your
Thank you.
time. Moving along to item B2, presentation on the Washoe County Developments Projects Process. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to make one comment as you're coming up. The reason why you're not sitting with your family having dinner tonight is because of Carly and myself. But you had such a presentation when you were over our cab and it was very impressive. I was hoping somebody from our development department here might be able to pick up on it, or are they?
I think
Yeah.
Somebody here, great.
Yes,
And
Chris
we
Pingree.
thank you for it. We've gone through, Carly and I have gone through quite a few developments and they seem to get lost in the wayside once there's a presentation. And I hope with the rest of the members here, you'll be able to show them what you folks have started and very much impressed. And I thank you for taking the time to come here and Amy for making the arrangements on it. So thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. For the record, my name is Dave Solaro. I'm Assistant County Manager at Washoe County. And since you are all Washoe County residents, we serve all of you. So my pleasure to come and talk with the City of Reno, City of Nevada, yeah, City of Reno Neighborhood Advisory Board. So just a little bit of background. Washoe County has citizens advisory boards. And over the years, we have reimagined these boards to assist us in various ways. Most recently, in 2013, we completely overhauled our Citizens Advisory Board project because after the economic downturn, there wasn't a lot of development. There wasn't a lot really happening. We were noticing that the numbers of people attending our meetings was, far outnumbered by the number of staff that were attending. And so we really wanted to re-envision and understand, what was going to be best for the board. So the county went through a process and came back and decided that really what we wanted to see as we started to come out of the economic downturn and get into more business as usual was a focus on development projects, because what we were seeing was people went through a period of time where there was no development. It really did not occur, maybe 4 or 5 years, where that vacant lot next to my house, that was great because I could go walk my dogs out there, I could go ride my bikes, and all of a sudden, a tentative map that was approved 5 or 6 years ago, someone goes out there and starts turning dirt. People want to know what's going on. And so we created the Citizens Advisory Boards to give advice to the Board of Adjustment and the Planning Commission specific to development opportunities. And that went along, kind of bumped along for a little while. We got a lot of feedback from the board members because we would hear from citizens like, hey, I want to hear other things. I don't care necessarily about the development. I care a little bit, but not as much. But I want to hear other things. And so we went through another process within our strategic plan at the county to talk about really what's the best way to handle development and what's the best way to handle informational type items and other things that we want to see. One of the other concerns that we had was with a citizens advisory board, you end up in a situation where you've got to follow open meeting law. And so the citizens were frustrated that if it wasn't on the agenda, our district attorney's rep said, don't talk about it because someone out there may want to talk about that. So don't do it. And, and so it stopped having a conversation, a dialogue between an applicant or our staff and the citizen advisory board members. So we went through a process where we actually separated now. So right now in Washoe County, the citizens advisory boards are set up very similar to this, where we have a board, we've got a chair, you all run the meetings, and we talk about other things that are out there in the community. So we've had waste management, we've had the sheriff, we've had Truckee Meadows Fire. I've come and talked about the neighborhood development hub. We've invited developers to come and talk about their project. It's a little bit more on the information sharing, but it's more structured. So there's an agenda and there's a process. So set that aside for a little bit and let's talk a little bit about neighborhood hubs. During the process of understanding what the cabs needed, what the boards needed, it was very apparent that almost every single citizens advisory board within Washoe County was unhappy with the development process because by the time a project came to the citizens advisory board, we had already received an application in Washoe County. The design was pretty much done. The developers were done with what they wanted to do. They've spent a bunch of money. And so there was very little interaction with, hey, I live in this area and that area where you've got your street coming out of that tentative map, tentative subdivision, really that's in a poor location for these reasons, X, Y, or Z. And the developer's like, yep, okay, thank you very much, appreciate that. And on we go with the tentative map with a street in a bad spot. And so Washoe County staff went through a pretty extensive process. We met with groups across the county staff, librarians that see the concerns from the community all the time. We spoke with some of the cab chairs and really started to think about what's the better way to do this. So we have a new process in Washoe County whereby the developers, before they submit an application to Washoe County to develop, they have to go through and have a neighborhood meeting. It's got to be noticed. We give them the list, say, here's the area that you've got to notice, and we follow the state law. We're going through the process right now, trying to determine there are certain projects that it should be larger, and what does that look like? We haven't gotten any of those in yet. Interestingly, we started this process mandatory for our April 8th intake. And since then, I think we've received like 3. So it's been pretty slow recently. In fact, I just checked this month, our June 8th intake, and there were no projects that met the requirements to go through a neighborhood meeting hub. We're getting a lot of parcel maps, and parcel maps don't need to go through that process because of the numbers of divisions. But just for your information, we require really any commercial administrative permits or special use permits, master plan amendments, regulatory zone amendments, development code amendments, variances. Believe it or not, still in Washoe County, we get commercial boarding stables and kennels. Let's see, I think that kind of covers the whole gamut of what we require to go to a neighborhood meeting. We don't require single family residences, accessory dwelling units, those things that are kind of already by right. You can just come in and get a building permit. We don't require them to go out and get a permit or, notice 750 feet around and say, hey, I'm going to build a house on this lot that's been here for ages and I'll just build a house on it. The important part of the neighborhood meeting, though, is it gets the developer or the person that wants to do something with their use to go talk to the neighbors that are going to be directly impacted. It brings the development out. We want them to have these meetings as close as possible to the site that they're looking at. In the summer, I envision, developer out there with the tailgate down, talking to a group of people like, there's the sagebrush. This is what I want to do. Here's where we're at. That may be a little unrealistic with some smoke and heat and other things, but certainly a meeting room close enough. We have allowed the developers to do in-person or hybrid meetings. We're still going through that process of really what is the best way to do it. but we certainly want the feedback from the residents in the community where the development is going to occur. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out how to share my screen here, just so I can show you the website that we have put together.
Just, this is Amy Pennington for the record. I just do want to clarify for the NAB that our Director of Development Services, Chris Pingree, is online watching right now.
So this is our, I'll just show you how to quickly navigate to this page. This is our main Washoe County website, washoecounty.gov. And right here on the front is the search bar. And if you simply type in hub and hit search. On the search results, pretty much any one of these links will get there, but if you click definitely on neighborhood meetings, it will come up to this site that in the future, let's see, yeah, okay. So like I say, this is new, so we've got this disclaimer up here to begin with, but there is a spot over here on the sidebar for neighborhood meetings right there, or you can click right here. It takes you to the Neighborhood Meeting Hub website. So this is an external website that was developed by our Washoe County Technology Services Group. This is set up by Washoe County staff. So we require developers before they apply to come in and talk with us about what they're doing so we can get a better understanding of whether their project meets the minimum requirements so that we don't want to waste the neighborhood's time either when they go out and talk to you about this idea they've got, concept in the dirt. We want them to have a little bit more information than that, but not too much that they have completely designed the project. So again, the important piece here is that this all occurs before we get an application into Washoe County. Our staff may have met with the developer. In fact, we've had to have met with the developer to set them up on this platform, but we want to make sure that they meet with the community and get community feedback on their project. So I actually had staff throw a couple of extra ones up here. While the Verdi SOI rollback and the ridges at Hunter Creek would be really great to show you all because they're in the same kind of vicinity of where this ward is. I clicked on these earlier and they didn't populate all the documents that are supposed to be with these. We've already actually received applications into the system and that's why they're not there. However, the Canine Rehabilitation Center out in Washoe Valley is pretty cool. So if you click on that, it shows you over here on the map where it is, a little flashy. And then it talks about the parcel, who the developer is, general description, and then it tells you which commission district and whether you've got an upcoming meeting or not. Now, this one has occurred. This one's actually gone through the process. It was approved by the Board of Adjustment, I believe, last month. So this is one of the first ones that kind of went through the entire process. But as you'll see here under project documents, this first item is actually a recording of the neighborhood meeting. There's a set of notes that occurred at the meeting. There is the sign-in sheet, so we know who attended the meeting. And then a copy of the notice card that went out to the residents nearby. Now, this is important because when this comes in as an application to Washoe County, our staff then has this information and we can verify whether they took the community seriously, what things that they understood were important to the community and how the developer either addressed or not, because we give the developer the opportunity to address them in a positive or just say, no, this isn't going to work for these reasons. Because this information then gets passed on to the Board of Adjustment or the Planning Commission. Now, those are the boards that actually have a role within Washoe County Planning to approve these projects or pass them, from their approval stage onto the Board of County Commissioners, depending on really what it is. So the other nice thing is we have this submit feedback button here as well. And so this is a survey that goes live the day before the public or the neighborhood meeting. It's live the day of, and it's actually still live now. We keep them live so that we want to gather as much feedback as we can. So even if you can't attend the meeting, there's a chance for you to provide feedback. And we provide this feedback kind of sanitized to the developer when it comes in, so that they can address it or talk through whether they're going to address or not. But it's good information for our planners to have as they go through the process and make recommendations to the adjudicating body. So on the neighborhood meeting hub, the next set of neighborhood meetings will all show up here. We really want the community to learn about projects, to contribute to the process, become involved with the process, and then see the change as this occurs. Down here at the bottom is really probably one of the more important pieces for starting this program. You can simply type your email in this box, select which commission district you want to get the information around those projects, and you can click all of them. And then when a new project is created in the system, it'll automatically send you a notice that a project has been created, and you can go in and take a look at the information. It'll also send you the information on the neighborhood meeting itself, so you'll have that opportunity. Obviously, this is trying to target those people within a radius of a project that are going to be directly impacted. But certainly we have lots of information or lots of examples where someone might live in the city of Reno and work in unincorporated Washoe County and might be curious about what's going on there. Ward 5 and our Verdi West Truckee Meadows cab. There's, the city line and the county line does all kinds of crazy things, and development occurs on either side of that line. Development really doesn't care necessarily about that, but you all might. And so there's an opportunity for you to understand what's going on in unincorporated Washoe County near your area. And so that would be by selecting District 1 and District 5 on this neighborhood meeting hub. And you'll get notification of those developments that are occurring in unincorporated Washoe County in the Verdi, Mobile, Somerset. I guess that's kind of the area we're looking at. You also get them from, for Incline Village if you're interested in what's going on there. And then with District 5, anything in extreme North Valleys. So, so far, this, like I say, just launched. We are collecting data. We've collected a bunch of feedback from all of the Citizen Advisory Board meetings. We've gone through and made some changes already to the website to try to capture some of that. Yet to see, besides this cat item, which was super simple, but I'm glad it went through the whole process. A large development. That's really what I want to see happen here. I'd love to see the next tentative map come in and go through this process, because that's really what we're trying to accomplish. That's really what most people want to see is, that blank piece of dirt that's been out there the entire time I've lived here. I thought it was, federal land, or I thought it was non-developable. And here we go through a process. I'd really like to get that feedback from the community to help the developer, because we run a fine line. Someone owns that property. They have property rights. We as staff have to make sure that we balance their property rights with the needs of the community. And it's, most of the time it's a pretty easy job, but there are some times where contentious projects come out and it's very difficult. This is a way to also keep staff out of the middle of it. We were accused an awful lot of being in the developer's pocket, or helping the developer more than we should. We try to be as even as we can and provide a safety for the community and also those development rights. So that's my presentation to you all on the neighborhood meeting hub, and I hope that answered your questions, or at least started the discussion around how this could be useful for your communities. We're super excited about it, and hopefully within the next 6 months we'll have some really good data to understand if this is working, and if it's not, go back in and change it. So.
Chris, do you have time for some questions if we have some? Sorry, Dave.
Dave. That's Dave.
Chris, hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Do you have
I'm
time
here
for
as well.
questions, Dave? Yes. I'll just go from the left. Any questions for us?
I would just say on that district map, is there a map that so you know what district you're signing up for stuff?
Yes, actually, the best resource we have is our Washoe Regional Mapping System, WORMS. And so if you go to that search bar and type in WRMS, a map will come up, and it's an interactive map. It's got a ton of information. You get your city council wards, school district ward, boundaries, Washoe County boundaries. It's right there on the Washoe County website. It's got a ton of information. Kind of scary sometimes if you go in there and look at your own property about how much information you can get. So WRMS, you just type that in the search bar, it'll come up with a link to it.
And then I think it looks like a really good website. I just wonder if it's gonna get pushback from the developers as you get a big project like you were talking about.
Yeah, interestingly, we've had a project where we've actually had our citizens advisory boards. And you know, this is a learning process, right? So the developer sets the meeting, the developer runs the meeting. It is the developer's show. We've had at least one instance I know of that the developer then would not go and show up at a citizens advisory board meeting because of how poorly they were treated by the community at their neighborhood meeting, which created an interesting dynamic between, again, the community and the developer that we were, you know, we thought it might happen, but we gave the developers, we've got a whole page on here just for the developers for tips on how to run a meeting, what that looks like. We also, after that incident, let the developers know that if something like that occurs, they can stop the meeting and they don't have to, you know, continue. We don't want to get in that contentious situation. This is supposed to help the community and help the developers as well, or the property owner, whoever it might be. So it will be interesting to see what happens once we get a big one.
Yeah, because anytime you add this, it just adds time and money, and that's what they'll tell you at least. You know?
Yeah, and part of the process with them, when we talked to them through this process was, you know, the hope is if this really catches on, then the chance for, you know, this to go to the Board of Adjustment and then get appealed to the Board of County Commissioners, and you know, that whole appeal process, if this works well, we should not have those appeals because the community members will be vested in the project. Their comments will be heard finally. And so at least, you know, in my utopia, that's where we're going to get to.
I think in the long run, you don't want that street coming out at the wrong point
Right.
that you started the presentation with. So it's in everybody's benefit.
Right.
Thank you.
Just a couple thanks and kudos. I know that you and I met back in early 2019.
Yeah.
So I know how long you guys have been working on this and just the amount of effort that's gone into it, not just for this, but for the citizen advisory boards as well. Those meetings have really been able to flourish since all of this kind of got hashed out, thanks to you. But more importantly, obviously, I know a lot of citizens want their voices heard. They want to be involved. They want to know what's going on and be able to give their 2 cents. And to be able to have that ability is wonderful. And in a way that is not confrontational and that is informative and everything that you've just expressed. So really no questions, just really thank you for both presentations at this point and for taking so much time on it.
Thanks.
Mac Rossi for the record. We were fortunate enough that our councilperson Jordan involved us in what was going on even after the city limits were into the county that gave the people out there in Verdi an opportunity to at least voice their opinion. There's been several people on this board that haven't gone through as many years as a couple of us have. And we've seen a tremendous amount of developments come in through here. And they start off at one facet and all of a sudden we have to submit some information to them. And you better hurry up and get it in because they're going to the planning commission the following week or something like that. And that's kind of discouraging. And then all of a sudden we find out the project has changed from affordable housing to luxury apartments and going and the same development all along. So I thank you for doing this. I hope maybe there's a couple of things the city can pick up that'll give us more of an opportunity for the neighborhood to get in and put their input in. So thank you for your time to come out and do this. Appreciate it.
Just had a couple of follow-up questions, Dave. You talked about the issue of by right.
Mhm.
If a developer has bought land and they do have by right, are you? It's still it's a courtesy for them to form the neighborhood meeting, or is it an absolute must in order to go forward with the application?
So something like a tentative subdivision map, even if they don't want to rezone, I mean, what we were starting to see is a lot of people wanted to rezone because the zoning was different than they thought they needed to do whatever it was. But if a developer came in and, you know, they've already got the zoning and the master planning that they need on the property that they've purchased, and they want to start building homes because it's low density suburban, let's say one home per acre, they could move right to the tentative maps scale. But when we want them to go through that process with their tentative map, because that's really that impact to the neighborhood that we want to see that positive change. So a couple of examples, we've seen where we didn't have the opportunity for someone that had the rights to build on the land. They just went out and did what they wanted to do. And then we had to follow back up with the community to really understand the impact it was going to have on certain roadways, not necessarily the drainage, but the walking, the connectivity, the multimodal, all of those different things. And so when we had those positive meetings with the developer, that's really where the idea that popped in. It's like, we really need to get out ahead of this prior to the application, because the developer was willing to change. He said, we'd like to have done this, a year ago before we started actually drawing all of our lines on the ground. But the hope is that even with those where they've got a right to develop those tentative map or those subdivisions, they still have to come in and have these meetings because we want them to interact with the neighborhood. There's one up in Golden Valley where I really wish we would have had this in place, because I've just gotten a request for us, crosswalk to the school. Like, it would have been a perfect thing to be able to put in and align the way the neighborhood currently utilizes kind of the existing neighborhood with the new neighborhood going in. So.
Is this set up entirely internally within the county staff, or did this have to go to the commission for approval?
Yeah, so this went through our strategic planning process, and then the commission needed to approve the separation of the development and the citizens advisory board piece. So we got direction from the board to do certain things with that part, as well as direction from the board on how to handle these things. And so, certainly if we're going to have to change this, we'll give an update to the board, but the members have said, let's, as long as this thing's not broken and we're hearing screams from our community, let's continue down this path. So.
Okay. And if I understand it correctly, when those neighborhood meetings are held, as you said, it's organized by, and the cost of setting up the location, advertising it or promoting it, staffing it with people to answer questions, and then managing the meeting and providing feedback or written feedback. That all falls on the developer. It doesn't fall on the county at all.
That is correct. Yep.
Okay. And in those meetings then, so nobody from the county staff actually attends those?
So we've had staff members attend via Zoom if they're a hybrid meeting. We have had staff attend in person as well. And mostly it's one of the planners that thinks that they're going to end up with this case at some point. So they just want to be there firsthand to see it. But we do get the recording, whether it's a Zoom recording or an in-person voice recording, so that our staff members will understand what actually occurred at those meetings, even if they didn't attend.
Okay. And final question, if I wanted to contact somebody on one of your cabs, great acronym, somewhat better than NAB, I know. I know that people like to keep their personal information private maybe, but is there a way I could get a letter, inquiry, email or something to somebody there?
Yeah, actually, I think we've got a lot of that information on the rosters within our website. In fact,
okay.
While you're there, I'll just pull it up and see. Take a look at our West Truckee Meadows Verde cab. Yeah, so we provide email and phone numbers on our cab
Okay.
roster.
So I can just look that up. Okay.
Hope you two knew that.
Mac Rossi for the record again. Just to clear and make sure that we all understand it. You go to a neighborhood meeting, they give their presentation, you give your input. They go out and they decide they want to change something that wasn't addressed at there. My understanding is back to the neighborhood they go again. Is that correct?
That really depends on how big the change is. So if it's a completely different use, absolutely we'd have them come back out. If they're taking the input from the neighborhood meeting and making changes to their project, we probably will not have them go back out and say, hey, by the way, this is what we did. Because then it goes to the time. we want to be mindful of that as well. Time is money through this process, and if they're following the rules and the laws and can get there, we certainly want to allow anybody that's investing that kind of money into a project that eventually will, believe it or not, help our community. I know a lot of people don't believe that, but will eventually help our community with some of the other issues that we struggle with as local government. Time is a piece of that. So we want don't want to be talking about $600,000 median house prices. That's one of the things that we can do is speed up the process to help temper some of that. And this is one way to do that.
Sorry, I'm going to follow up on that just
Yep.
because I am curious, and I'll preface this with a little bit of an example for you. We had several years ago a project where the developers actually reached out to our community organization and asked to come out and do a neighborhood meeting. They said, we've got an idea. We just want to run it past the neighborhood. We would love to be there. It was beautiful. They came out, they presented a wonderful project. They were incredibly mindful of everybody's comments and feedback. City of Reno staff was there. Washoe County staff was there. It was a fabulous meeting with probably about 50 people. When that project was presented to the city, totally different project, totally different people, no longer the gentleman that presented to the community. It was a different project. It was different individuals, planners. Everything had changed 100%. So it was very kind of off-putting in several ways. So again, very thankful that something like this exists now so that it's not on our community organization to have said, we were presented a wonderful plan and we support this project going forward when the project was completely changed. So that just kind of sponsors my question of maybe not a question, but maybe just a suggestion of being mindful of that going forward. Because once they do start getting into the design stages, maybe the individuals that are representing the developer aren't qualified or don't have the time, whatever the case may be. If that changes, it kind of changes the whole dynamic of the project. And I just wonder how that's going to occur, because this particular project, I'm referring to the warehouses, the sphere of influence project that you've got on there. The initial project that was presented was fabulous. It was just flex space. It was a low key. They were very attentive of all of the feedback. And then when it came to coming to, excuse me, I think it was to the NAB, it was like a 64 bay warehouse with industrial. It was completely different. So, and then it was changed even more when it went to commission. So just, I guess, maybe suggestion that it really needs to be tracked as to what is being presented, and this will help, but.
Yeah, I thank you for that input, because I do think that this will actually help as long as, we're paying attention to really what's going on with these meetings. And, our staff knows that they've got to go back through and listen to make sure that, if there was a valid concern that was brought up, that valid or not, a concern that was brought up by the community, and the developer just said, I'm not going to worry about that. We want to understand why they didn't address those types of concerns. So certainly as they go through, they should be able to pick up that, hey, this neighborhood meeting is different than this application that I got in. And that's where we'll have that conversation. So thanks.
Dave, would you mind if I just asked if Chris Pingree, as you're online, did you have any questions or comments regarding this issue?
No, can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, we've been following what Dave and his wonderful staff have been putting together, and we're just as eager as everyone to see how this kind of pans out. As you know, they've been working on this for quite some time, and we kind of want to see how the fruits of their labor come about too, as we revamp our processes and clean up the things we're doing here at the city. We obviously have a little more volume and a little more workload currently, to where we haven't been able to focus as much time as we would probably prefer, but it is on our high priority list to continue to revamp what we're currently doing to make things better as well. But Dave, great job by you and your team. It's been a lot of work, and I couldn't see it looking any better.
Done a lot of groundwork for you.
That's That's the ultimate form of flattery, right?
I'll give you all the information, Chris, when you're ready.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you both for taking the time tonight to
Thank you very much, Dave.
Present.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. It was very interesting. I
right.
definitely want to follow up on that.
Thank you very much.
Along just to some housekeeping issues. Item C, Board, Commission, Committee Member Reports and Announcements. Is there anything, Amy, you want to address?
Yes, I just have a question for discussion for the board regarding our July meeting. So July, let's see, it's currently scheduled for July 12th. And just want to put it out there. I don't currently have any agenda items coming up for that meeting. We do have an option of getting the city box at an Aces game if we wanted to, in lieu of our July meeting, do a social gathering. I have either the date of June 18th available or July 6th available. So that's just something that, I mean, we can still hold our meeting on July 12th. We can cancel it for having one summer month where there's not a meeting, if that's what the board prefers. And then in addition to that, we can do a day at the Aces sponsored by Vice Mayor Jardin, with some refreshments. People can invite their families, that sort of thing. So those are kind of, want to put it out there to see if the NAB is interested in any of those options.
I love that. And I will be on an airline on the 12th, so I will not be here either way.
I'm open to any of the suggestions, but I prefer a social over a meeting, just for my own 2 cents.
Amy, you said we could invite a family member or?
Yes, I mean, I'll have to double check the total number, but our hope would be that it would be open for people to bring family members with them to enjoy as well.
Now, would this be for like when you say social gathering, would it be, it's not just open, it would be to certain invited individuals, correct?
Oh,
Like just
specifically
board
the NAB,
members? Yeah,
the
okay.
Ward 5 NAB members and families.
Okay. Just clarifying.
Oh, no, there's no quorum issue for social gatherings. And then if that is the preference, if there's a date preference between June 18th and July 6th would be the second question.
Wednesday.
June 18th is a Saturday. It's this coming Saturday, actually. And then July 6th is a Wednesday.
Me too. This weekend's busy with the Father's Day stuff.
July 6th would be great. Yeah.
I'll be there on the 18th because I will be out of town. on the 6th.
You'll be out of town on the 6th also?
Yes, I will
Oh,
not be at the
bummer.
6th either.
Okay.
So is there a general consensus that we're okay with?
You want to have a motion or vote? Or
Well, I guess, sure, why not? Why don't you have a
do we hear a motion for July 6th being a social event at the Reno Aces for NAP members and their significant others?
I will move to approve that.
Mac Rossi for a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion
Okay.
carries. Muse, do you have any other issues?
No.
Did
I
we
have
need
no.
to choose the next chair of the next
Oh,
formal
actually-
meeting? Or-
Yes, y'all can discuss that. Let's see, as far as the continuing of the alphabetical order, Bryce would be the next person in line
In August.
in August.
I think you guys do a fantastic job and I'm happy being right here.
Okay. And next in line after that would be Carol.
Carol, would you like to be the
didn't know.
chair for August 2020? Okay.
the next person would be Alex Goff. He's not here, so I don't know
Typically
if
absent too.
if-
He usually doesn't come, but maybe we could email him.
email or, yeah, I mean, I'll leave that up to you guys if you want to email him or,
I think it's the people that are here.
All right, Rossi, you're up.
right.
You're delighted to accept. Okay, moving along here.
Real quick, actually, since
something else?
this is actually the option for us to share as well, correct? Or do we need to wait till public comment?
So you can share.
Okay, great. The one thing that I had asked, and I would still like to continue asking for, is an update on past projects that we've heard and would need to get a status update on. And this would be a grand time for a project that just came through. We had just heard in May, I believe it was, the Meridian 120 South projects. And those just went to both the Planning Commission in May and then the City Council here in June. So that would have been a perfect project to kind of get a status update on. Fortunately, obviously, I'm well vested in it. So just for the NABs and for the record, that did actually end up getting approved by the City Council. It was quite contentious through the Planning Commission because they didn't approve it to begin with. They actually denied the project to begin with. So they were contentious to approve it to move forward to council. But council had a 3-hour debate about how, well, to be completely honest with you, even the city attorney said that it shouldn't have gone forward. There was quite a few people that agreed and moved, but in the end, it did actually get approved. So maybe just getting the final vote count on something like that would be beautiful, rather than letting me mutter through and show my true colors here on how I feel about it. But just actually having the counts and it went to City Council. I think there's a couple other projects in the same situation. So just having those updates would be really awesome.
I will note that it is helpful for me if there are projects that are of significant interest. So there's some of them that are obvious that I know, like Meridian or Glow Plaza, like things like that, that obviously have more interest. But just, I do this for 3 NABs. And so I don't always know necessarily what projects are of interest to you. So if there is something that's of interest to you, please do feel free to shoot me an email. And then I can try to make sure that our planning team or myself have an update on it.
That would be great. That was actually one of my questions too, because I actually help with the agenda for the cab. So I am very hands-on and involved with that. I just didn't want to inundate you because I know you're busy.
Say the least.
Emailing me with a project is helpful.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. It's okay.
Mac Rossi for the record on future. I'd like to see if we can possibly get the ambassador update, please.
I've been trying to get him here. His schedule hasn't lined up for our meeting quite yet, but he wants to come.
And do you want to follow up at all with the NDOT or RTC stuff? All of what you've been tracking for the last
McCarran
couple
Loop.
months, yeah.
I'll have to have a meeting on that. I can give an update a little bit on next time for the McCarran and 7th Street.
You want to give an update?
You will be able to.
What I'll do, I'll save you some time and see if I can get an update on it.
Okay.
They're a little slow in getting back to me. We'll work on it. Thank you.
Okay.
A follow-up on the bird scooters. I don't know if people are putting it into Reno Direct or calling in the bird number, but every other day I hear about people on the sidewalk and some near misses. So I know there's some real interest in being able to speak to somebody in that program and somebody from the city that could hear the residents about that more specifically. So if you could get somebody here, that'd be great. And we didn't hear anything on Sanderston and the group homes issue, which was a big one for about 3 people that also, I think, went to planning commission. Is that kind of done now, or is it still in process?
My understanding is it wasn't scheduled to go to planning commission or anywhere. They were just approved and ready to go.
I don't feel comfortable making a comment on where it's landed because I don't
Okay.
have I don't know. So I don't want to,
Okay.
yeah,
So-
I don't want to say something that's not correct.
So maybe could we have somebody from city staff come next time and just give us a brief update or write us an update?
I'll try to get.
Yeah, to be fair to the citizens, the folks that came, they were
Exactly.
very concerned about it, and I'd like to give them some feedback.
Well, and I know those individuals have been in regular contact with city staff, so.
It'd be nice just to understand where it shook out to, just because just everyday life, I meet people that are actually residents on that street and have issues or don't have issues. So it would just be interesting to know how it shakes out. But that was my last comment too. Thank you for bringing it up.
Does anybody else have any other future agenda items? Okay, that takes us to public comment. I don't know if there's anybody left to give comment, but
There are a few people online. If you'd like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time.
seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mac Rossi, for the record, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Bryce Chisholm, I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries. Meeting is ended.